You can find this podcast and others at Gun Rights Radio Network, gunrightsradio.com. Podcasting freedom.
Hello and welcome to episode 44 of Shooting the Breeze, the formal gun podcast of WaltInPA.com. I am Walt White, and it is the day after Father's Day. Father's Day weekend is past, and I don't know about you, but I had a fantastic weekend. It was filled with gifts, range time, and just time spent with family. It was just a fantastic weekend. I enjoyed it immensely. And it all started off on Friday. I decided that I was going to get together with a couple of the guys from Team Custom Gun Finishes and do a little mini USPSA match at our local range prior to heading to our regular USPSA match the following day on Saturday. So Friday after work, I guess we hit the range a little after noon. It was like 12:15, 12:30, something like that. We broke the first shot. Worked on a handful of things, mostly reloading practice. I'm one of those people that loves to work in reloads at the range. It is probably the most degrading skill in my toolbox. If I don't practice reloads constantly, I tend to botch them really bad. Sometimes I'll completely miss the gun with the spare magazine. Sometimes I'll bumble them. But whatever the case is, if I'm not constantly practicing my reloads, they generally suck. But when I practice them, they're usually pretty smooth and on the money. And it was kind of funny watching match video. Even when I'm bumbling magazines, or even when I feel as though the magazine isn't, or the reload isn't going as smoothly as it could be, watching back the video, it still looks pretty fast. So, for my skill set, I'm really happy with the way I'm progressing. But, I'm digressing here. So we got to the range, we did some shooting, a variety of drills. I said we did a mini USPSA match. I selected 5 different stages to set up. The only criteria I had was that the stage must use 3 or less target stands, and that meant classifiers galore. It was really easy to select 3 classifiers, and then I made up 2 stages of my own. Worked in a lot of reload practice, El Presidente, which I hate, but I shoot it anyway because it's used a lot in the area. And one particular drill that we did horrible on, all of us equally bad, was Merle Standards, which is a USPSA classifier stage, which calls for drawing a gun and shooting a target 105 feet away, 6 rounds, reload, strong hand only to a target I think 45 feet away, and then second string is draw, fire another 6 rounds at 105 feet, reload, weak hand only at a target at about 35 feet, 35 feet, something like that. And we all totally bombed the stage. It was kind of amusing looking back at the score information, because all of our hit factors started with 0 point something. It was pretty bad. But it was even though we did pretty bad in that one particular stage, it was a great time overall. Came home, hung out with the family, then got up bright and early on Saturday morning to head down to the range, help set up the usual Southern Chester match in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. Shot that match. Felt pretty good about my overall performance. What really surprised me was being handed a check at the beginning of the match. Apparently, there's a cash payout for division winners. So since I won production division last month, I got a check for $30, so that was awesome. So now I'm kind of pumped up. Not only do I want to win again, which is going to be really difficult with everyone back in town, but there's also a payout for top in the division, top D class shooter, top C class shooter, top B, top A. The only stipulation is that there must be 5 or more competitors in that particular class, which I'm not quite sure how it all plays out, but I know I've won top C before, and I don't ever recall getting a payout. So maybe it's just this one club, and it makes shooting there much more appealing. So I had a great time on Saturday. The weather was perfect. If anything, it was a bit warm. But aside from that, coat yourself in sunblock, hit the range, and I just had a great time. Sunday, I spent the day with family. We wound up going to Father's Day breakfast at this place that's really close to my house, but I've never been to, and it was awesome. Food was fantastic. Portion sizes were enormous, and we wound up bringing more food home than we ate. And just all in all, it was a good time. I spent some time later on with my father. We went, had breakfast with my in-laws, my father-in-law, and then hung out with my daughter a while, and then we went to see my father. Then I came home, did some more gun-related stuff, mostly typing up show notes and stuff for the podcast. But all in all, it was a really enjoyable weekend with lots of trigger time mixed in. In addition to quality time at the range, I also got some gifts this weekend, which was a really big surprise. Not so much getting gifts, but the gifts that I got were great. A couple of weeks back, or maybe 2 weeks ago, there was a Cabela's flyer that showed up at my house. We don't get the usual paper that the flyer, the insert is stuffed into, so I'm not quite sure how it showed up. I don't know whether it came in the mail with other junk mail kind of stuff, but I started paging through it, and I pointed out a pair of shoes to my wife. I said, I'd really like to get a pair of these hiking shoes. They, this typical sports type shoes that I wear for USPSA shooting doesn't have a really aggressive tread pattern, and actually I only like wearing older shoes because I'm running around in dirt and grass and mud, and I usually beat them up pretty bad. So I don't mind if I'm wearing older sneakers, older sports shoes kind of a thing. And what I'm currently using for matches is fine on gravel. It's okay on grass, but it's pretty nasty when there's a little bit of moisture in the ground and you got some kind of, maybe some loose sand or some loose dirt. It can get kind of slick. So I pointed out these hiking shoes to my wife and I said, I'd really like to get something like this just for shooting with a nice aggressive tread on it. And I said, look, they're on sale. Be kind of cool to get them. Just kind of dropping a little hint. Well, as it turns out, the first time ever she picked up on my hint, and she decided to run up to Cabela's and pick them up for me. While she was there, she also picked up 2 shooting shirts for me. One was an NRA shirt that had a picture of an NRA bullseye target on the back and had a tight group. The caption on the photo was, this is my interpretation of group therapy, or something along those lines. It was a cool design. I like the color of the shirt. I'm looking forward to wearing it. I'm sure that it's going to raise some eyebrows and prompt a few questions, but I really don't mind. I enjoy shooting, and I like kind of passing that along to anyone that may be interested. The other shirt that she got me was kind of funny. She was looking through these different gun manufacturer shirts, and she knows that I have Smith & Wesson product. She was looking at the Smith & Wesson shirt, but decided she didn't like it, so she didn't buy it. Instead, she bought the shirt that she liked, which was Browning. It had the Browning buck on the back of it. Really nice shirt. I like the color. I like the design. Just all in all, good, solid looking shirt. I like it. But I'm opening up the box. And I'm like, honey, it's kind of weird, but I don't own a Browning. Well, what does that matter? Well, I don't know. It feels wrong to wear a manufacturer's shirt if I don't own at least one product from Browning. So she made the mistake later on when we were at breakfast of saying something along the lines of, well, why don't you just go out and buy one? So I'm going to hold her to it. I'm not going to run out and buy one tomorrow, but at some point I see a Browning buckmark in my future. There is one last Father's Day related item that I have in the pre-news discussion portion of the podcast. However, it doesn't relate to my particular weekend. It was actually, earlier in the week. I came across something from gearhog.com. If you're familiar with Walt, GearHog is very similar, but instead of doing like electronics and wine and t-shirts daily deals, instead it's gear. You may find like shooting related hats or holsters or I don't know, gift certificates to various vendors. And in my case, there was a Father's Day special going on, and GearHog was offering a $40 Brownells gift certificate for $20. It was limited one purchase per customer, or one gift certificate per billing address. So it wasn't like you could just kind of stack up on these things easily. So I thought, it's worth taking a chance. I've never ordered through GearHog before, but it's really difficult to pass up a $40 gift certificate for half price. So I put my order in. I ordered a Brownells gift certificate. I got an email confirmation immediately after I made the purchase, and then I started peering over Brownells' website. What could I spend $40 on? And I settled on another double magazine pouch, which is made by Blade Tech. It's got this tech lock thing. I have 2 of them already. I needed a third. I didn't really need a third, but I needed a 5th magazine carrier, and I decided to just go with another double. And that was $25. And then I got a Glock specific magazine brush. What makes it Glock specific is it's shaped for a double stack magazine, but on the back of the brush, on the back of the handle, there's a small punch sticking out, which is used to disassemble the magazines. You can buy it one of 2 ways. You can either buy the brush by itself, which I did for like $14, or for $20 you can buy the kit, which comes with the brush and this sleeve that slips over top of the magazine. I guess it compresses the magazine in the proper place, so that once you slip this ring over top, or this plate over top of the magazine, and then depress the pin, the magazine comes right apart. It was just easy enough for me to buy the brush, and I needed that little bit of filler because I had $40 to spend, and I only allotted $25. So for a grand total of about $26, I got $46 worth of product. So all in all, that little purchase, which kind of goes into my Father's Day kitty as well, plus the weekend that I had with family, I cannot complain one bit. It was just a fantastic weekend. Before we get into the news, it wouldn't be a podcast unless I was reminding you about the current contest on my blog, waltinpa.com. If you're interested in winning a signed copy of Shoot, Your Guide to Shooting and Competition by Julie Golob, head over to waltinpa.com. Look at the very top post on the blog, which says something along the lines of win a copy of Shoot, June edition. Click on that, read through the details. It's very simple. All you have to do is post a comment telling me what type of ammunition you shoot most frequently, and you are entered. At the end of the month, I will randomly select one individual to win that signed book, and I'll ship it out to you, and next month we'll roll right into another contest. As I've said in the past, I'm running one contest a month for 12 months total, courtesy of StogieReview.com, which provided me with 12 copies of Shoot, Your Guide to Shooting and Competition, again by Julie Golob. And I'm not quite sure when the contest ends, but this will be the 3rd month, so I don't know, 12 minus 3, wherever that puts us into the year. It should be early next year, early 2013 when we wrap it up, but whatever. Just head over to waltinpa.com, click on the contest details for information, and get yourself entered. In the news this week, I have three different articles. They kind of bounce around a little bit. As of a couple of hours ago, there were 4, but I decided to cut one. One particular article seemed kind of interesting at first, and I initially put it in the show notes to discuss, but I read it 2 or 3 times after I stuck it in the show notes to sort of wrap my head around what was going on, and I just decided it was too aggravating and I didn't want to get into it. It was just a raging anti-gun article about gun owners disregarding facts or something like that, and avoiding microstamping, or fighting tooth and nail against this proven microstamping technology. And then there was a couple of other things mixed into the article, and all in all, it was just this raging anti-gun mess, and I decided to just pass on it completely. So we cut that out, and we've got 3 different news articles. We have 2 self-defense style articles and 1 article on Chicago. So first things first, the first article comes out of the Star-Telegram, and it is entitled Haltom City homeowner kills intruder, police say. This was published on Tuesday, June 12th, and it goes on to say, a Fort Worth man who authorities say forced his way into a Haltom City home and assaulted a couple was fatally shot by the homeowner, Haltom City police said Tuesday. The Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office identified the man as Jerome Mitchell, 23, who was pronounced dead Sunday evening at the home. Right now, it looks like it was a home invasion, Police Corporal Joe Hackfield said Tuesday. It was a robbery attempt. The 28-year-old homeowner and his 23-year-old girlfriend suffered minor injuries. No one has been arrested in the case, which will be presented to a Tarrant County grand jury. Police responded to a call at 6:15 p.m. Sunday in the 5300 block of Melroy Drive. The homeowner and his girlfriend told authorities that they were in the house when a man broke down the door, walked inside, picked up an object, and began assaulting them. The homeowner got a handgun and fired multiple times, police said. When officers arrived, Mitchell had died from multiple gunshot wounds. Authorities did not say whether Mitchell had known the couple. Mitchell had a criminal history in Tarrant County and Travis County, according to court records. He was arrested in 2006 in connection with robberies in Fort Worth and Watauga, and was later arrested in Travis County that same year and served time in prison. He was charged with fleeing from Fort Worth police in February and was sentenced to 60 days in jail, records show. So this particular order lacks a lot of information, but it kind of makes you wonder, who this kind of whack job is that will kick in a door or just break into your home at 6:15 p.m. I mean, it is June. 6:15, the sun is shining, birds are chirping, it is bright outside. It's not like someone's doing this in the dead of night. So I'm curious, was this guy on something? Was there a side of the story that we're not aware of? But it kind of makes you wonder, if something like this were to happen in your home, are you prepared for that type of situation? There would be a lot of noise before that would happen in my home. I'm an advocate of locking the storm door. I do it constantly. My wife hates it, but I do it all the time. Anytime I come through the door, I lock the storm door. It's a matter of inconvenience to someone that they can't open the storm door and knock on the wooden exterior door. Instead, they have to kind of knock on the glass or knock on the sheet metal pane at the bottom of my door. But it's that little added sense of security, I think. It doesn't take much. I've locked myself out on more than one occasion, and a good yank on the door will pop that little spring-loaded pin that actually holds the door shut. So it's not like you can't bypass it, but you do make a lot of racket getting that storm door open before it finally forces it open and pops. So there's that deterrent. By that time, my dog is probably going bonkers, barking and growling and everything else at the commotion behind the door. And then I've got this big exterior door that I always keep locked. I don't know, maybe I'm a paranoid freak, but I always lock the door. I don't just turn the bottom lock. I actually lock the deadbolt as well. Again, my wife hates it, but constantly do it all the time. I lock the storm door. I lock both locks on the exterior door. If it's a nice day and we've got the storm door, or not the storm door, the exterior door open, I still lock the storm door. So, I don't know, maybe something like that in this similar situation may have, maybe things would have changed, but you never know. Maybe the guy booted the door down and just kind of broke apart the jamb. But in any case, it makes you wonder, if it were to happen to me, are there any safeguards in place? For me, I've got a couple of locked doors that are standing in the way of this intruder, and I've got firearms not far away. If I'm dressed, generally I have a gun on me. If I'm wearing like real pants, like right now I'm wearing sports shorts, so there's no pockets for me to have a gun in, or no belt for me to be to attach a gun to. However, I have a gun in the room, so there's always something relatively close. It's behind a lock, so there's a little bit of a time barrier there, but there's always something, and I think it's beneficial and certainly needed. I think it could have prevented two individuals from being assaulted with an object from this intruder, but that's just my opinion. The second piece of news comes from CBS 7 On Your Side, and this was published on June 18th and is entitled Deputies, Woman Shoots Ex-Husband in Self-Defense. Lawrence County, South Carolina. Lawrence County deputies say a woman who admitted to shooting her ex-husband will not be charged in the shooting because they believe she acted in self-defense. According to the incident report, deputies were called out to a home on Vern Cora Road in Lawrence Monday morning. Tammy Duvall told deputies that she had a friend over at her house and was about to go outside when she heard a car door shut. Duvall told deputies she grabbed a gun and shot several times when she noticed her ex-husband, Roderick Woodruff, charging towards her. Deputies later found Woodruff injured at his home and took him into the hospital. Roderick Woodruff will be charged with criminal domestic violence first offense. Woodruff was charged in April with CDV first offense and kidnapping with the same woman. Woodruff has been convicted in the April case, which is why the new charges are first offense as well. Deputies say after changing her story several times on where she got the gun, Duvall will be charged with unlawful possession of a weapon. So here's another prime example of why pieces of paper do absolutely nothing to protect anyone. Protections from abuse or restraining orders. I don't know whether she actually got one. However, I would imagine with things going down the way they did that she probably had those pieces of paper and they were about as good as pieces of paper get. Absolutely nothing in protecting her. And I don't know, they don't go into detail about the kidnapping, but in my mind I envision this woman getting pushed into a trunk of a car and speeding off, and the husband speeding off with her beating on the trunk of the car, kind of a thing. Whether or not that's how it went down, that's kind of what is conjured up in my mind when I read over this thing. I don't blame her one bit if that's what happened, and she was kidnapped and he was actually charged for this stuff, and he came charging after. I wouldn't blame her one bit for blasting the guy. It's his own stupid fault. But to charge her with weapons, unlawful weapons possession, is kind of interesting. She changed her story multiple times on how she came into possession of the gun. But you have to wonder, though, after being kidnapped and abused, I don't know what CDV stands for, probably something domestic violence. So if she was being beat on and kidnapped, does it really matter where she got the gun? I mean, this is one of those situations where maybe the district attorney should kind of look the other way. Excuse me. Because you really can't blame her for shooting the guy that already kidnapped her and beat her, and all of a sudden he's running after her from his vehicle, charging after her as she comes out of her home. So, I don't know. A lot of details are missing from this, but I thought it was kind of interesting anyway. I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Especially since she's being charged with unlawful weapons possession after defending herself with a firearm which she may or may not have received legally, or may not have acquired legally, or within legal bounds of South Carolina. The last piece of news that I have for you is something that should make you want to get up and clap after you hear it. It is so often we hear anti-gun groups saying, well, this is common sense gun law. It's common sense this, common sense that. And, when you kind of flip the tables and look at some of the things that they do, you've got to wonder, where is that common sense that they talk about all the time? Because it certainly doesn't show in certain situations. In this case, I think that the author of this article, or the author of this news piece kind of hit the nail on the head. And this comes from Reason.com, and it is entitled The Futility of Chicago's Gun Turn-Ins. If you've got some clothes you don't need anymore, you can give them to Goodwill or the Salvation Army. If you have an older car, you can call various organizations to take it away. And if you're in Chicago and have a gun that's burning a hole in your pocket, you can get rid of it on Saturday, no questions asked. The city government has a great fondness for gun turn-in events. It's done 6 of them in the past 6 years, collecting more than 23,000 weapons. This one will be held at 23 churches, and anyone handing over a firearm will get a $100 gift card. The guns will then be destroyed. The motive behind these efforts is not hard to understand in a place that has had 433 murders last year and has seen a spike this year. Dozens of shooting takes place in Chicago every week. 2 years ago, explaining the effort, then Mayor Richard Daley said, "We have just too many guns in our society. When someone has access to a gun, they use it. The gun buyback is a way we can reduce the number of guns on our streets," says Mayor Rahm Emanuel. But don't put too much stock in these pronouncements. The number of privately owned guns in America keeps rising, and the last count it totaled 270 million, or about 1 for every adult. But nationally, the homicide rate has fallen by more than half over the past 2 decades. Contrary to Daley, most people who own guns never use them for anything but legal purposes: hunting, target shooting, self-defense. Contrary to Emanuel, the weapons this sort of venture yields are probably not the ones carried in the streets or the ones used in crimes. The reduction also represents a minuscule share of firearms in the city, which may number over 1 million. Think about it. Who is most likely to turn in a firearm for a $100 reward? Someone with 1, a cheap, and 2, no criminal propensity. Say Aunt Millie disposing of a rusty revolver her late husband left her in the nightstand. Florida State University criminologist Gary Kleck noted in a 1996 book that when St. Louis did a gun buyback, those participating, quote, were commonly middle-aged and 80% white, while those involved in gun violence in that city were mostly young and black, end quote. Criminals will have trouble finding any appeal in this offer. In the first place, their weapons may have cost far more than $100, as handguns and long guns of good quality usually do. In the second place, thugs practice a trade in which a weapon is essential for doing business. A pistol used in the course of armed robberies will pay for itself many times over. A $100 gift card won't. The experience elsewhere offers little hope that the program will make a noticeable difference. After a successful 1974 buyback in Baltimore, the firearm homicide rate jumped by 50%. A study of a Seattle effort found it failed to reduce significantly and frequency of firearms injured, deaths, or crimes. This is the pattern whenever turn-ins take place. A 2004 study by the National Academy of Sciences concluded that the theory underlying gun buybacks is badly flawed, and the empirical evidence demonstrates the ineffectiveness of the programs. The people who participate are generally those who are least dangerous. Those who are most dangerous have no motive to participate. So when the buyback is done, the number of armed criminals will most likely be unchanged. Advocates may think that getting rid of weapons will at least prevent accidents and suicides, but some people who hand over a gun will hang on to others, which they are just as likely to handle carelessly or leave where a child can find. As for suicide, the odd thing about people intent on killing themselves is that if a firearm is not available, they can find plenty of other methods that will serve their purpose. The National Academy study said that gun control policies may reduce the number of gun suicides, but they have not yet been shown to reduce the overall risk of suicide in any population. This year's turn-in will no doubt garner a decent haul of weapons, but for anyone anticipating a drop in gun violence, it will most likely yield disappointment. So, just a good, solid article. All in all, it hits on a lot of points that I've kind of made in the past. Whenever this subject comes up, the first thing that crosses my mind is, what criminal is actually going to turn the gun in? And okay, maybe you've got a criminal that decides, okay, I've got to get rid of this gun that I used in this particular robbery such and such weeks ago where the store clerk was shot and killed. In a no questions asked situation, isn't that gun just rendered completely obsolete? They're going to destroy it. It's never going to find its way into evidence. And the people that would the people that would charge and aggressively go after this criminal have just destroyed the evidence for him. And aside from that, anytime you hear gun buyback, usually there's on a forum, if you hear gun buybacks are coming up, it's usually the guys that are most excited are the guys that have junky beat up guns that don't work and they just want to get rid of them. They're not worth anything except for in this buyback where they can, sometimes double and triple their money. So, I think this is just a feel-good measure. I don't know that it's actually doing anything for anyone, but I think this guy did a really good job of outlining some of the thoughts that I've had. So, Steve Chapman, thank you very much for your article. In featured content this week, I have 3 different write-ups to talk about. Actually, 2 write-ups, 1 video. Or actually, all of them kind of contain video. But in any case, unlike the news, I don't read this stuff word for word. If you're new to the podcast, featured content is just that. It's stuff that I came across on the web that I thought was either cool or informative or funny or just worth sharing. And I talk about it a little bit. The objective here is to just kind of give you a little bit of a summary, talk about some of the things that I found appealing about this post, and then sort of spark your interest and get you to go there and check it out for yourself. Just, sort of a way to reciprocate content kind of a thing. But the first piece of featured content this week comes from Tom over at Fill Your Hands. And if you've listened to past episodes, you know that it doesn't take much to get me all excited if it involves USPSA shooting and sort of a match debriefing of sorts. And in this case, Tom goes over a match report from the Cherokee Gun Club USPSA match from earlier this month in June. And, he breaks down the 7 stages of the match, discussing how he shot them, how other people were shooting the stages, how he felt as though people could shoot them better, the sort of trick to the stage if there is one. Excuse me. And like in past write-ups with Tom, there is some video associated with these matches, and the guy makes me jealous. He's got big names that come out to the matches in his area. So, for instance, during the match, he had a little bit of a break, so he walked to the next pistol pit and was just able to get some video of Dave Savigny shooting a stage. And, I'm really jealous of that. I wish that I had the opportunity to record some of the big names at my small clubs, so that I could then take that video and then compare side to side. Okay, how did the master or grandmaster shoot the stage versus how a lowly C-class shooter shot the stage? Where can I find, where are the places where I can save time in the future? What is he doing that I'm not doing, or what am I doing that he's not doing or she's not doing? Whatever the case may be. And I love this kind of stuff. It's not beneficial to just USPSA shooters. I think that if you enjoy any sort of pistol shooting, basically all of these articles boil down to the same thing. It's working the fundamentals quickly. In USPSA, you just happen to be doing a lot of this stuff while moving, or just doing it faster than if you were standing on a firing line at your local range. It's a game about speed and accuracy. IDPA is the same way. So seeing this stuff not only is beneficial to USPSA shooters, I think it's beneficial to anyone shooting a handgun, because it talks about, more advanced pistol handling skills, and I just kind of like that stuff. The second piece of featured content comes from Ron over on When the Balloon Goes Up, and this article is entitled Gun-Proofing Your Kids, and it includes some video, which I thought was fantastic. Now, gun-proofing your kids, that sounds kind of strange, because generally you're not necessarily gun-proofing your kids, you're kid-proofing your guns. That's how a lot of people view it. However, there's a sect of gun owners that look at it the other way around, where you should prepare your children and educate them on how to handle firearms if and when they ever come across them, rather than planning for a situation where your kid should never see a gun. I mean, in an ideal world, all guns would be locked up and children wouldn't be able to get, their grubby little fingers on them. But, it's not a perfect world. It happens. And it's important to educate your children on how to address the situation if it ever comes up. And a while back, I don't remember what episode it was, but I'm pretty sure that I discussed, I don't even want to call it a book. It was like a pamphlet by Masad Ayub. It was actually two books in one. If you held the book one way, it was Gun-Proof Your Children. If you took the book and turned it 180 degrees, like top to bottom, it then became like the Handgun Primer. And the whole double book was a total of like 16 or 17 pages. It was ridiculously short. But the first portion of that book was Gun-Proof Your Children, and I thought it was a great informational guide, not only for gun owners who are looking to educate their children, but non-gun owners who want to prepare their children for the event in which they ever run into a gun or find themselves in a situation where there's a gun involved. And I think Ron does a fantastic job of educating his children. And in this video, it looks like he's sitting down at a table and he calls for his children. They come into the room and he sort of interviews them on the spot about, what should they do if they see a gun, and he sort of breaks down the situation, asks them a variety of questions, and it sounds as though his kids have it down. They have all the answers and they are safe children. Whether they're at home when the gun is presented, or if they're out with friends and one of the kids, one of their friends goes to show them daddy's gun or something like that. It sounds like they have that situation under control and know how to react to that situation, who to inform, what to do step by step. And I can only hope that I can get my daughter as educated as Ron's kids in this situation, and Masad Ayub's, I think, daughter or daughters in the case of his book. It's just something I find very, very important, and I definitely want to go the route of educating my child rather than hoping that my child will never find themselves in a situation where a gun becomes visible or becomes accessible to them or their friends. The third piece of featured content revolves around Texas triggers. This is a video promo that I came across on a couple of different blogs. It was on Gun Nuts Media, and I don't remember. I think it may have been Everyday No Days Off. I also came across the promo video, and basically, it looks like Colby from Top Shot is capitalizing on the momentum of Top Shot, and is hosting sort of like a gun retreat sort of a thing in Texas. And throughout the video promo, it looks like it's a way to buy yourself a Top Shot experience. Sort of like baseball camp or baseball club, or I don't know. However that works, where you kind of go and be a rock star for a weekend or whatever it is with your buddies. In this case, you could buy your way into a Top Shot experience, and they've got you shooting a lot of the same guns that are on Top Shot and going through some of the challenges that are on Top Shot, where you're going down a zip line, you're shooting this type of gun, you're shooting that type of gun, you're shooting at this type of target, that type of reactive target, and it looks like all fun and good. I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine what this retreat sort of a thing would cost, but if you've got money burning a hole in your pocket and you want the Top Shot experience, this looks like the thing to do. You go down there, you have fun, and I don't know, you get to hang out with Colby and a bunch of instructors who are said to be world-class instructors on a variety of weapons that they're going to be using, weapon systems that they're going to be using. So it was just something I thought I would share. I don't know that I've got any listeners that have the type of money that this would probably cost, burning a hole in their pocket, but I mean, if you can afford it, have at it. Tell me all about it. But it looks like fun. I don't know that it's very practical, but hey man, good luck to Colby and his Top Shot offshoot superstar camp kind of thing. For the cigar and drink pairing this episode, I want to kind of keep it short and sweet. Both of these are a repeat. The beverage is just Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I've done it 100 times before. Not literally. I mean, this is episode 44, so I couldn't have done it 100 times, but you kind of get where I'm coming from. The cigar is the Fuente Opus X, and this is kind of dedicated to John Hottaway. I don't know that I know anyone that smokes as many Opus X as he does. It seems like every time I see something on Facebook where he's posting a picture of a cigar, or he's smoking a cigar in a video, whether he's talking with Bob from Arkansas Shooters or he's doing something else and cigars come up, the Opus X is the cigar that he talks about. So I was digging through my humidor and I happened to see one. So I thought, okay, I'll pull a John Hottaway, I'll get out an Opus X and talk a little bit. But this particular cigar is it's limited quantities, and it only comes out 2 times a year. You can expect to see this cigar around Christmas and around Father's Day, and it's kind of appropriate that it's around Father's Day. I didn't actually buy this recently. I've had this for quite a while, but when the Opus X hits the store shelves, envision Christmas time. The hot new toy comes out. Parents are flooding the Walmarts in your area, and fist fights are breaking out over the limited stock of the new Tickle Me Elmo doll or something. I don't know what the hot new toy is. I've got a 2-year-old. She's happy with boxes that the toys come in. But at any rate, the Opus X is pretty much the same way. You have to sell X number of Fuente product in order to be given an allotment of Opus X. You get a small allotment to begin with. Generally, there's a sticker on the box that the retailer puts on there that says limit 1 or limit 2 per customer. They generally run anywhere from probably $13 to $18 depending on where you're buying them. This is the larger size. It's probably closer to $18. But they're a wonderful cigar. They're big, bold, powerful cigars. Lots of power. This is definitely not something you want to smoke early on in the day. I made that mistake when my daughter was born. The day after she was born, I came home to let my dog out and sort of get the house straightened up while my wife and daughter were resting. And I hadn't had that celebratory cigar yet, so I decided to break out an Opus X because it's kind of cliche, Opus X, it's awesome. So I get out an Opus X, I light it up at about, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was feeling green for quite a while. It's again, big, bold, powerful cigar. So, not for the faint of heart, not for a first cigar of the day. It goes great with coffee, but make that an evening cup of coffee, or at least a late afternoon cup of coffee. Otherwise, the Opus X may hit you a little bit harder than you would have hoped. So, there's your cigar and drink pairing for the episode. If you're interested in trying the Opus X, I don't know if you're going to be able to get one now. It's after Father's Day. Opus X are probably dried up by now. Usually they come out early enough for people to get them for Father's Day. But, I don't know, you might get lucky if you give my preferred retailer a call, which is Mike over at Buckhead Cigars. His phone number is 404-844-0400. You can head over to his website, which is askthecigarguys.com. It is not a retail site. It is just a listing of some of the product that Mike carries, some of the newer stuff, some of the stuff that he's featuring. And you'll see a list of 5-pack pricing and box pricing, both of which include shipping charges. So the price you see is the price you pay. If you kind of want to feel Mike out, get a feel for him and his business, you can chat it up with him on social media. He's on Twitter, Facebook, and Google Plus as Buckhead Cigar. So again, if you're interested in trying this cigar, or any cigar for that matter, use my preferred retailer and let them know Walt sent you. That you'll not only be supporting a fellow cigar guy, but a fellow gun guy as well. In the discussion topic this episode, I want to talk about something that is sort of USPSA centric. However, I think it can be applied to any shooting, whether it be IDPA or just plinking. And it all boils down to something that happened at a match this past weekend. As I've mentioned in the past, I'm a member of Team Custom Gun Finishes. There are 4 of us that shoot USPSA. We were fortunate enough to find a sponsor that is not interested in our performance. They are interested in a couple of guys going out and having fun and promoting the business on a very positive note. They weren't looking for people that were kind of going to ram the business down people's throats and pull the old hard sell kind of a thing. They just wanted guys to go out in a relaxed environment and just kind of be there if anyone had questions about our equipment and things like that. And that has worked out really well for us because I am the only one on the team that has a tremendous competitive drive. I find myself constantly pushing myself. I am really interested in how high I rank in a given stage or a given course of fire or a given match. And I'm constantly looking at statistics from one match to another to see if my accuracy percentage went up or down, or if it's plateaued, or looking at video to see how I can perform better next time around. Some of the other guys are much more relaxed about it. They want to do well. However, they're not, I don't know, as anal about it as I am, I guess is probably the best way to put it. So anyway, I'm at this match and I step up to the line. Buzzer goes off. I shoot the stage, and I'm sort of putting my stuff away. And one buddy of mine, Scott, comes up to me to give me my camcorder back, and he says, it looked really good. What did you think? And of course, my answer every time he says, well, what do you think? My answer is, I screwed it up. I did this wrong. I did that wrong. It felt slow. This, that, and the other thing. And he always gets that painful look on his face, like, why are you beating yourself up so much? You're doing really well. In the back of my mind, I know that I'm progressing. I know that I'm doing fairly well. But, in that moment, there's always something that I could be doing better. And having just run through the stage, it becomes painfully obvious that there are certain parts of my game that need improvement. So anyway, he says, look, it looked like you were shooting really fast. Or, I'm sorry, before that comment, I had mentioned that I felt like I was shooting slow and, I wasn't working the trigger like I should have been. And, I just felt like I was slow overall. And he says, well, that looked really fast to me. So I was just like, okay. The match concludes. I go home, and like usual, I pop the video card into my computer, and I start watching back the game film from the match. And I get to that stage where I felt like I was going slow, and it was painful, and everything else. And I don't know what I was thinking or what was happening, but I went through that stage tremendously fast. I mean, my shots weren't as good as I would have liked. They never are unless they're all A's, in which case I still complain, because if I shoot 100% accuracy, it means I wasn't going fast enough. But at any rate, when I can recall shooting the match and thinking, okay, my rhythm was off. It felt like I engaged these 3 targets kind of slow. My reload was not right. It felt like I hit the magazine well instead of getting the magazine up inside the gun properly the first time. And it was that little half second of hesitation was there. And engaged some other targets. Another reload. This one felt smoother. I engaged these targets. I transitioned to these targets. It felt kind of slow in the transition. Then I reload again, and I'm shooting through a port at these other targets. And I don't feel like I'm working the trigger right. All in all this stuff I'm nitpicking all these little things, and it leads me to believe that I didn't do so well on the stage. I watched the video back, and my jaw practically hit the floor. I was shooting so much faster and smoother than I was back when I first started recording my own video, back in October. I actually decided I wanted to pull up the October video, the first match that I recorded, at Lower Providence, and I was comparing how I shot side to side. Now, the match that I shot in October of last year was at a different club, different style shooting. There weren't any stages that were identical or even close to what I was shooting this month, but you can still sort of compare and contrast. And I was shooting really slow in October. I was shooting for 100% accuracy. I get the gun out and I take measured shots. That first shot breaks. I realign the sights. The second shot breaks. My reloads were really low. They were slow. There was no sense of urgency in anything. When I was moving from one target array to another, I was sort of slowly moving about. Now I'm moving much faster, and it's just night and day amazing. And all of this just comes from repetition, practicing, getting out and doing more and doing more and more shooting. So even if you're not into sport shooting, when I was only plinking, going to the range, at first I started out, getting out the gun, taking slow, measured shots on my target, making sure I got all my hits. But eventually, I was pushing myself to shoot a little bit faster. How fast can I shoot, a 17-round magazine in this target and get all torso shots? Granted, it wasn't like USPSA fast kind of shooting, but, there was always that push to shoot a little faster, get the gun out quicker so that my shots were on target. Just all in all, it was a game of speed and accuracy, even at that stage. And when I transitioned into competitive shooting, things changed quite a bit. But it's amazing what 2 matches a month for a couple of months can do. So when I recorded that match in October, I shot 1 match in October, and then in November I think I shot 2 matches. 1 match at the same club, 1 match at Topton, and that ended the season. So there were 3 matches, and then a big lapse through the winter season, and then I got back into shooting in late March, early April. So we're looking at March, April, May, and June. 2 matches a month, and it's amazing what that trigger time has done for my skills. It's blistering fast compared to what I was doing before. So do yourself a favor, get out to the range as often as you can. Not everyone can afford to hit the range and put 200, 300, 400 rounds down range. I can't. That's why I break it up into a couple times a month. So do whatever you can do to get out to the range and keep at it. Focus on what you're doing. If you have the opportunity to dry fire at home, again, even if you're not into competitive shooting, it's still very beneficial to learn how to get the gun out of your holster and on target, especially if you conceal carry or open carry. Being able to present the gun is very important. And just a little bit of dry fire practice here and there is going to help build your game and make you a more well-rounded shooter. So this whole discussion topic is sort of revolving around a whole bunch of different stuff that may or may not apply to you. I still think it applies to you, even if you think it doesn't. Unless, of course, you shoot like shotgun sports or something. But again, you can still find a way to make it work or make it apply to you. But I just wanted to talk about how amazing how amazing the progression has been since I started shooting more seriously in October versus now. It's just a night and day difference. I cannot believe I'm the same shooter. It's amazing. Get out there and shoot as much as you can. Every little bit helps. It is about time to close out the podcast, but before I do, I'm going to thank you for downloading, watching, listening, subscribing to Shooting the Breeze, the formal gun podcast of WaltInPA.com. If I've said something that has spurred an interest in contacting me, you can do so in a variety of ways. The easiest way is to head over to my blog, WaltInPA.com, click on the contact button, and fill out the associated forms, name, email address, subject, and the body of the email. Click send, it'll fire me off an email. I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. If you'd rather use your own email client, you can send me an email at walt@waltinpa.com. Please feel free to attach audio files or a video file if you would like that sort of thing included in a future episode of the show. And I will do my best to get back to you, review that footage or audio, and get it incorporated into a future episode. I'm also on a variety of social media fronts. I'm on Twitter as @WaltW. I'm on Facebook and Google Plus as Walt White. My blog has a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/WaltInPA. I'm also on the Gun Rights Radio Network forum. I have a Shooting the Breeze section where I post a new topic every time an episode is released, where you can comment on the episode, ask questions, do whatever you like. And speaking of the Gun Rights Radio Network, they are still in need of donations, so if you've got a couple of bucks burning a hole in your pocket, you can donate to the cause, keep the lights and servers running over at the Gun Rights Radio Network. And I think that's going to do it for the episode. So again, thanks for checking out episode 44 of Shooting the Breeze, the formal gun podcast of WaltInPA.com. Until next time, take it easy.
You can now hear Gun Rights Radio Network while you're on the go with Stitcher Smart Radio. On-demand news, talk, and more on your mobile phone. The latest episode is always available for you. No syncing needed and no memory or storage wasted. Available for your iPhone, Android phones, or your BlackBerry. Downloading is easy. Go to Stitcher.com or check out your app store. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio. Gun Rights Radio Network shows can be found under Sources.